We are wrapping up a week with the all-new Lincoln Corsair. This is essentially the replacement for the MKC. Lincoln's come a long way. I'm going to give them a ton of credit. Their styling is really head and shoulders above Cadillac, and I never thought I would say that. Interior, exterior, everything. They have come a really long way in a short amount of time. So that's the good news about Lincoln. As far as this Corsair, I'll tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the good is that it's in a great segment. It looks stunning. I think it has a lot of Audi styling cues, and if you're going to copy another brand, Audi's not a bad one to copy. As far as the exterior, it's a good size. It's a nice, proper 5-passenger premium or luxury crossover. I kind of hesitate to say luxury because going back to Lincoln, not just Corsair, they have a huge problem with not enough of the right kind of dealers, and they're working on that. And over the next 3 to 5 years, they're going to remedy that. And first, you have to have the product, which they now have, and then you have to have the facilities, and Lincoln is definitely mandating that with their dealers. So expect to see showcase, top line, Lexus, Mercedes level dealers in the not so distant future. In fact, they're coming online as we speak. So I think the car has a nice presence to it. What I struggle with is that outside of the Detroit area, who is really going to pay $59,000, which is what this particular test sample cost, when you have so many other options? Porsche Macan, Mercedes, BMW, even Cadillac, Lexus, Jaguar, you name it. There is a competitor by every single car company, and you name it, there's a competitor. You name it, when you look at the luxury space, every competitor has a model in this segment. So this is a really tough place to play. And if you are going to play and you're Lincoln, you can't be as expensive or more expensive than the competition. It's just not going to work. Now, I realize a lot of people are going to lease these cars. All right, I'm not going to beat it up too much on the price, but it definitely you deduct a point for pricing. You also deduct another point for not having the facilities that the other brands have. So it's kind of starting in the hole already. I think the interior is stunning. I love the use of the metal with glad there's no wood. They've gotten rid of the wood. So metal and the just the soft materials. Everything really works. It's a nice place to be. You have an enormous head-up display that works just fine. Of course, in this segment, you have to go, all digital with a full TFT screen, and they do that quite nicely. So certainly give it credit for those things. But what I didn't like is I thought that a lot of the controls, especially radio control, when you have Apple CarPlay connected, were not very intuitive. And then you have these buttons here, these little toggle switches. They're okay, they're not great. Here's one example, the cruise control. So I see the button for the cruise control, but there are no buttons anywhere else. So I push it, and then these 3 lights come on: resume, set, increase, and set, decrease. But to use the buttons, you don't push here, you actually have to push from the back. It's just, I don't know, that extra step. And to me, there's nothing easier than the old Toyota Lexus stock, where you just push a button and lever up, and you're set. You're in cruise control. Too many steps and buttons from behind. I suppose you get used to it after a while, but I think it's a bit of a misstep. I understand what they're trying to do here, and it certainly is kind of cool to have. And you also have on this side cancel, and this is for your lane departure warning, and the distance for the adaptive cruise control. So it is kind of slick how they're doing it. but I just don't like the buttons in the back. You got the paddle shifters here, that makes sense, but it's just a personal preference. On the other hand, I think this start-stop button is really quite cool. I just like the way it protrudes as opposed to recessed the way most car companies do. It just really has kind of a presence to it. So it's something you have to push once every time you go somewhere, and another time every time you stop. So it's something you use quite often, and it's nice to make it a little more memorable, I guess. Acura has done that too. They have that red anodized look to it, and it just engages the owner with the vehicle. The seats are exceptional. Definitely give it an extra point for the seats that they've actually won awards for. They're even massaging seats. So push the button on the door, and you can see this is the driver pass to adjust the driver, and then you hit massage, and you've got all these options: lower rolling, upper rolling, circular cushion, full recovery, and relaxed recovery. I guess I'm in relaxed recovery mode right now, and actually took it on a couple of long trips, and we've put about 450 miles so far, and really a comfortable vehicle, pretty decent visibility, all the right cues, the panoramic sunroof, etc. Now, yes, this is $59,000. You can get a decent one in the mid 40s, but it's still overpriced in my opinion. Let's talk a little bit about how it drives. I was surprised how well it handled. We actually had it on some windy roads, and very, very impressed. It was actually, I expected a lot more body roll, so they did a good job there. Also, the performance is okay. It's a little sluggish. The 2-point, the performance is okay. The 4-cylinder turbo is okay. It's made it to an 8-speed transmission, and you have these different drive modes, quite a few drive modes, I might add. So we go into normal, slippery, deep conditions, snow. There's also, I like this one, it's called Conserve, and then my favorite, Excite. So Excite's supposed to be the most responsive. In fact, in Excite, when we had it in Excite, it was actually holding the gear pretty well on the canyon roads. So I like the vehicle. It's very impressive. I just can't get past the $59,000 price point. Now let's do a 180. I just recently drove. So let's talk about some of the competitors, but not the traditional competitors. My new favorite competitor, which is the Land Rover Defender 110. Now that vehicle starts at $49,000. For $59,000, you can get a kind of a mid-grade Defender 110, and I would much rather drive that on a daily basis. It's just more fun. It's more engaging. It has this polarizing look about it that makes people think at any moment you could just take off and go off into the mountains. It's a capable off-roader. It has a lot of legacy. I mean, this is the first Corsair ever, whereas the Defender has a history and tradition. I don't want to focus too much on that, but that's just one example of the types of vehicles that Lincoln shoppers will be cross-shopping, and I'm sure they'll sell some and probably lease a lot more than they'll sell. And I really can't find anything glaringly wrong about this vehicle. I wouldn't say, oh no, don't buy it, it's horrible. I would just say negotiate the hell out of it, because if this was $51,000 the way it was equipped, I'd say thumbs up. At $59,000, thumbs down. I'm out. That's just my take. You have one thing a lot of the car companies are going to is the shift by wire. Pretty much everything's going that way, but I think the way Lincoln did it is much more clever and intuitive. And you would think, well, all new cars are clever and intuitive. No, they're not, because the new Yukon, which we got to drive briefly, has a terrible shifter. In fact, to engage neutral, you have to pull. Everything else is a push. Well, here everything is a push. GM says it's a safety factor. Well, if it's a safety factor for GM, why isn't it a safety factor for Ford and other brands? I think they're thinking too much about this, but this is much more integrated than the way other car companies do it. As you can see, you have this chrome line, and it just follows it nicely. So it doesn't stick out. It doesn't make you feel like they just added it on at the end. Little things like that. So a lot of good in this vehicle, very little bad. But the biggest bad would be, or the two biggest bads, are the price and the absence of a true luxury brand and having the proper dealerships. So that's kind of where we're at. But overall, very pleasant. Oh, one more thing I want to point out is, again, every once in a while I'll see something by a car company and I go, wow, that's clever. Why didn't anyone else think of it? And if you look at this steering wheel, there's a talk button here. So if I were to push this, then I can say a command. So that's pretty clever. As opposed to having it here, here's a place where, you know, it's easily accessible. I mean, they could have added another button here. Maybe this is where the cruise button should have been. I don't know. But this is very clever. So every once in a while, a car company will do something and just make you say, wow, whoever thought of that really made good use of otherwise empty space. For example, the new Kia Telluride has the USB ports for the rear seat and the side of the front seats. Makes sense. It's empty space basically, and you already have electricity in the seats from the power seats. So no big deal to add that in there. I'm surprised more car companies don't do that. Again, make use of space that is otherwise just sitting there. You know, and speaking of space, they've done a good job here. Plenty of storage. Like the fact that they have USB-C and USB-A. Again, can't take that for granted. Not every car company is doing that. We just drove a couple of new ones that didn't have it. So very important to have that USB-C. I'm 100% USB-C right now. I've switched over, and that's where everything is going. You know, I want to talk about the massaging seats again, because here's another example where I almost have to give it two points, 2+ points for having that. The Yukon we just drove, the top of the line Denali, $85,000. They don't even have massaging seats as an option. I asked GMC about it, and they said, no, our buyers don't want that. I don't believe that. I think massaging seats are great, especially on long hauls. Yukon's the kind of vehicle you would drive on long hauls. And so I don't have a vehicle with massaging seats in my stable, but I certainly would like to have one if I was going to have it if I was going to take long trips. It's just such a great feature. So, okay, fuel economy, not that great. We've been averaging about 23 miles per gallon. We've been driving it in a spirited manner, but it's certainly not what you would think. I expected much better fuel economy. I'm Ron Doran. Thanks for watching. See you next time on The Driver's Seat.